humerus, or the arm bone, or the funny bone. So now we're going to talk about arm anatomy, and in this section, more specifically, upper arm anatomy. I'm going to break it down into upper arm, and then lower arm, and then the hands. We have three distinct sections that we want to talk about, just like we did with the upper leg, the pelvis and the thigh, or the upper leg, and then the tibia, fibula, and then of course the foot. We'll do the same thing with the arm. So let's talk now about the bones of the upper arm. So we have the humerus here, and it's very much a tube, very much a cylinder with a ball top to it that sockets into the glenoid cavity. We've talked about the scapula before, and I'll cut to a scene where I'll talk about that just a little bit. And so we have the ball and socket joint here at the top, or the head, if you will, and I'll talk about some relevant points in a moment there. Then the relative body or shaft, and there's some things you'll want to know about that. And this is a right arm, by the way. It is the right arm and right ulna and radius, and in the hand. And in the bottom of the humerus, I think of it kind of like a scraper. Like if you wanted to scrape something off, this would be a great weapon if you were a caveman. Don't go out and hit anybody with this, please. I'm not advocating that, but it would be, because it has a kind of a blunt end to it. Now, it has some interesting multiple type joints to it that we'll talk about here in a moment, and name those two as well. And then we'll see where this is divoted in here, where the ulna will come in a moment too as well. So the humerus. So the humerus, to get a little bit more specific now, is the upper arm bone. It takes on the muscles of the upper arm, the coracobrachialis, the brachialis, the biceps brachii, and also the triceps brachii, which will be on the back, and we'll be drawing those in the next section when we put the muscles on. So to get now more specific, before we draw, we've got the neck. Now the neck fits into the glenoid cavity of the scapula, really traditional ball and socket kind of joint to give it articulation. Now there's ligaments that cover all of that. There's cartilage in the glenoid cavity too as well to house that, to make that a comfortable area. And then we have some rotator cuff muscles, the teres major and the teres minor, that help rotate that too as well, and also up and down, which takes on really the trapezius and the latissimus dorsi also of these arm bones. So when we talk a little bit more about getting out of the shoulder, getting into the ulna and radius, we're also talking about flexing and contracting, much like the leg too as well. So this type of activity and action will take on the muscles of the biceps brachii, the brachialis, the coracobrachialis, maybe not quite as much, even though it's visible, and of course the triceps as your flexor muscles too as well. So we're getting this kind of action. Now, as we get a little bit deeper now into the anatomy of this bone, after the ball, we have the greater tubercle here. We have the lesser tubercle, and they really form these ridges here that are going to be important later on for attachment. But especially the intertubular sulcus, or intertubular sulcus in through here, which is a kind of a canal or cavity. You want to be able to see that. So hopefully the light is showing that. You can see this as a little ridge in through here, and you're going to find that the biceps brachii, the long bicep, the tendon will fit right nicely into that, and will attach to the top of the glenoid cavity. So we have the greater tubercle, the lesser tubercle, the intertubular sulcus, or just canal, if you will. And then we have the greater tubercle crest here, so it's a little bit more raised and divoted in. The lesser tubercle crest in through here. And then pay special attention right in through here. This is a little ridged, a little bump right in through here. This is the deltoid tuberosity. This is where the three heads, the relatively larger three heads of the deltoid muscle, will be attaching in this particular area. And it can be smaller and larger depending upon the use of the muscle, the deltoid or the shoulder muscle. So this could actually grow a little bit larger depending upon the athleticism or the activity of someone, or actually be smaller depending upon a less amount of activity depending upon what happens. So now we have the deltoid tuberosity right in through here. Now the shaft of the body of the humerus is in through here. This is important to note. It's kind of torqued and twisted a little bit. Then as we come down further, we have the lateral epicondyle here, and we have the medial or the inside epicondyle. So if we switched it now, okay, in the back here, we'd have the lateral right here, flipping over, and then the medial for the inside. So let's flip that over again. So we have the lateral epicondyle and then the medial epicondyle in through here. Now, let's take a look at these joints. So, to point out a few things here, we have two different types of socket joints. We have a ball and socket relative joint here. This is the capitulum, or head, or capitulum, in through here. This is the trochleal part of the humerus. So the capitulum of the humerus, and then we have the trochleal part of the humerus. Let me just turn that around. So there are two different looking aspects to these joints, if you will. I'm going to turn these around as we do that so you can see this and how they react differently. Now, let's talk about the capitulum a little bit. It is more of a ball and socket type joint. It houses together, pairs together with the radius. So if I pull this out, the radius is on the thumb side over here and turns 180 degrees. See how these bones will turn over the top. So the radius, 180 degree turn here, turning over and working with the capitulum. Now, the ulna over here will not turn. It's on the pinky side, and it's more trochleal, and it slides across this joint. A little bit like your talus to the malleoli of the lateral and medial in the leg. So it's trochleal, it slides through there. Okay, let me turn that around. And then you see that the ulna has a type of C-shaped grabber like that. And see how that grabs on? You have a process or a cavity in through here to allow that room to turn and grow. So as we get to the back part of the humerus, it gets more triangular, right, in its construction. This is called the olecranon. Olecranon, in through here. It's basically a fancy word for your elbow. And it's very triangular, 1, 2, 3 points of triangulation. So the olecranon front and the olecranon here in the aspect, in the interior, I suppose, aspect of that. So those are the major constructive areas of the humerus bone, and as it fits obviously into the glenoid cavity or the scapula part in through here, and then turns and rotates. So now we have that. Let's begin now to draw a little bit the humerus bone and put that aspect on as we work. So I'll kind of lay it over to the side a little bit, let you see that, and then draw a little bit further as well. So we've got the right humerus, and we'll use the right humerus and also the ulna and radius. We'll draw a little bit of a part of that as well as we draw different aspects of this bone. So let's start out with the feeling now of these bones. So we'll start out feeling this idea of a ball and socket idea, right? So we're coming through and we're drawing a nice kind of circular ball and socket in through here. And then what we find is with the humerus ball, it's really kind of smooth. It has a little bit of a kind of an ice cream cone ridge kind of shape to it here and here, right in through and downward, right in through. And so we see that, and then we're going to come through that head and through there. It's going to get a little bit wider now. So we're going to come through this way, and we're going to come down, and we're going to start to hit those tubercles of the greater tuberosity or tubercle here, coming on through and over. Now it's kind of a ridge to it right in through there and on down, okay? So there's really kind of a nice feeling of a cavity or a bulge in that particular area as it comes down. And then we have the lesser tubercle, or tuberosity, if you will. It's tubercle. So I make sure I get that right. So the lesser tubercle in through here coming on down. And it has a hump or a ridge in through it, down in through, and then it comes on down to as well. So we feel that through here, feel this coming on down and through here as well, and then we can kind of come on our way through the object of the drawing now and get to that tube kind of part of it. So we're drawing the front end of it a little bit more open, just like this, okay? We have that feeling of it. So this digs in a little bit. Now, if we continue on, I'll draw the scapula a little bit raised out from it, but what's going to happen, this fits into the glenoid process, or the cavity, either way if you want. And it's got this opening, sort of triangular opening in through here where that fits into. Now there's sufficient cartilage in there, and this is all sheathed. All of this around here is sheathed in ligaments, bone-to-bone ligamentation to hold that in through there. So we have that going on in through there. Now we also have, remember, the coracoid process, or that finger point of the scapula. I haven't left myself a whole lot of room, but it kind of points and comes back over. I think I'll leave it out because we'll just work on the humerus bone right in through here, and then we'll talk about putting those in when we really get to the muscles, or maybe just a little bit later on in this lesson. All right, so we have the glenoid cavity, and remember that fits right in to these structures really nicely, right in through there. So they'll fit in, really sheathed in that nice ball and socket joint. Now coming down, we have this bone, and it's relatively straighter in orientation, so we'll gesture, kind of feel that gesture coming down in through here. And then as we do that, we're going to notice that this tends to bulge in with the bone structure. So it's relatively straight coming out, in through, on down, okay? Nice tube here, on down and through. And then we're going to start to feel about halfway down the shaft here, about half, about one half, you're going to start to feel the deltoid process bulge out in this particular view. So about right in through here, you're going to get that little raised area, and that's where those deltoid muscles of your shoulder, the anterior, the lateral, and the posterior, are going to connect up to in this particular area. So it has a little bit of a shaved aspect to it and through here, so a little bit working downward, like so, if we give a little contouring in that particular way. Now, coming on through here, so this bulges out, and then it gets a little bit narrower about halfway as we come on down. So I'll shade this through here a little bit further. And then what we're going to wind up with at the end now is the olecranon, and we're going to get to a little bit of turning. So this is going to turn here like so, okay, and move in this direction to start to make a triangle, or the olecranon, or the elbow. So we come down in through here, and you'll notice that the width of that is about the end of the ball and socket joint, right in through here, and also on the other side it will protrude outward a little bit, quite frankly, a little bit further, right in through there. So what we have is a very simple triangular shape coming on down to the olecranon. Now here we have the lateral condyle on the outside here, coming through, and we're going to group all this together, and then we'll pick this out a little bit further. So we have this in through here, then we have the medial epicondyle in through here to be more proper, right in through. Okay, and they have a kind of a bulgy head, kind of like the femur a little bit. I think of the humerus as the femur of the arm, and the ulna and radius as the tibia and fibula. In fact, they're very similar in their functionality. So I'll make that connection when we put the muscles on. So now we're going to have a little bit of, we'll put a little shading here just to turn this through a little bit. And now we have this torquing, right, in this kind of outgrowth of all this coming up, in through here, in over, okay? Get a little bit of stronger line work coming in through. And then now what we notice at the end is that we can start to put on the joint a little bit, and we start to find now that the capitulum here, the head, the capital of the head, that rounder socket joint right in through here, okay? So we have that relatively round, okay? Have that in through there. So we can start to feel that on. And then we have, it gets a little bit of a cylindrical body to it, but it's mostly kind of roundish, kind of a tube or a spherical quality to it. And then we have this trochleal kind of spool-like area in through here. Now there's a little bit of a divot through here that will show. Around, and through here and up, okay, and over. So we have that coming through our front kind of open view. This comes down, maybe a little bit more wide in through there. There we go. Comes down and kind of around in through here. And then we have, again, this spool. So with this open area in through here, this divot in through here, then we come out to the trochlea of the humerus in through here. It's more of a spool area to it. And what I mean by that, it's really like a tube. I'm thinking of a spool of yarn, if you know what I mean, or string. So we have this coming in through here and then down and over, and we get this kind of separative turning like that and through their cartilage, and ligaments attach these two areas together. Now, so with that, we have the humerus, but I want to add, make sure we add on the ulna and the radius, just the top, kind of the top parts right in through here. So if you have trouble remembering, remember that the capitulum, or the rounded one, houses and takes on the radius. The radius top kind of is like the head of a nail, like a carpenter nail, and that's going to turn. So we're going to get that radius turning. It's on your thumb side, and it turns. So we know that the radius is on the thumb side. Turn your hand over. You can also see the ulna, the P, little form right here, this little bump. I call it the ulnar P, right in through there, and that stays stable. 180-degree change to it. Now, so as we draw that further, we can see that the capitulum, I'm going to draw an open hand here, houses again the radius. So we have the gesture here of both. And the radius has that really kind of nail head to it, carpenter nail head. And I'll draw them relatively close together, in through here and over, kind of a disc, in through here and then around. They can vary in quite a bit in their shape overall, but kind of a carpenter nail head, and then we have, again, coming out and off of that, and then we have an open position where they come around and they're opened in through here, like so. We can give a little bit of shading expression to that just to get a little bit more dimensionality to the bone. And then the ulna, which is, we're getting the front view so we don't get as much of the C curve in the back, or that clamping, or like a wrench. See how that's like a wrench? Look at the action of that. Really slides along that trochleal joint in the back. It's almost like it's a mouth. And it's kind of like grinding and chewing as it turns around. So that's important to see. So we won't see that in this particular view. We will in the back of the olecranon area, or elbow area. What we will see is it kind of jointed together. Comes up in a tighter top ridge here, right? And then underneath, it really wants to really cup pretty nicely to it and take on its shape. It's a little larger than the radius for sure. As it comes down, there's a back end part of it in through here, and then it has kind of flourishes out like a column, and then it comes on down, and then we want to come on out this way. and over, and we'll give it a little bit of shading to put those kind of two together, like so. And then we have now the ulna and the radius coming together through there. So now we have the front part of our bone, of our arm bone, or upper arm bone, or the humerus, and through here. I'll clean up a few little areas, and we can move on to a couple of more views here to see this bone in action. Together, very active bone. There we go. Clean it up a little bit. Okay. All right. So let's go on now to another view here. Let's stand over and let's look at it from the back a little bit, but let's maybe make it a little bit more angled so we can see a few things as well. So now with the bone in this position here, maybe like this. How about like that? So we can start to see that ball and socket really come into play. It really is going to sit nicely into the glenoid cavity, and it's not a full circle. It has kind of a half-life to it, if you will, a half-feeling semicircle ball to it, like an ice cream soup. Then it has that little bulge here, inside here, and then because we're on the kind of posterior side of it, then we kind of come in and down. Then we get into this, the back of the tubercles. You really don't see, but they flatten out a little bit. Here, there's a divot underneath of here. This is really round, coming over, like so. The ball into here, really coming over. We get a little bit of a divot or shave down in through here and over, and then we get this little part of the back of the humerus now, where we have tricep area, the medial, the long and lateral part of the tricep brachii coming down. Then we get a little bit again of the greater tubercle outside from the back over and through here. So we have that. This comes down, curves in. So we have that coming down. Now let's get the gesture of that coming in through here. So you see that. So we'll have the gesture of this bone coming in and through. Meteor here at the top, right? Before we get to the body, and the body gets a little bit thinner to it. A little bit less torque here. Now we're coming down, thinning out a little bit in through here and over. Okay, so now we're about halfway, roughly down, and on this end it's harder to see the deltoid tuberosity. So if we turn it over, our deltoid tuberosity is right in through here, and it's not necessarily hugely pronounced, but remember that there is a bump there. It's about halfway down between the top, the ball, and the end of the joint here, the olecranon, about halfway down on the lateral side. So now we're going to turn it back over. So it means it would be about right here. I'm just going to put just a little bit more of an emphasis, or about right in through there on that bone. This tends to, for the most part, stay circular or tubular, coming down as we work the shaft of the bone. For the most part, that stays pretty nice. It's still pretty rounded, although it's not true perfect round, but it's not quite as curved off as the tibia or the fibula, or even the femur for that matter. Now as we come on down, then I start to break that idea and contradict what I just said. We start to get to the olecranon here, and the end of our humerus. So we're about, remember, halfway through here. So halfway down that shaft, the deltoid tuberosity. On the other side, what happens is a little bit lower than that, then we start to feel this breakage like we had over here. Okay? We start to feel this bone now turn and get into that triangular sensibility pretty quickly. It comes on down and it really overlaps the tube or the body of the bone right in through here, and this starts to get shaved off and flatter as it comes down here, and then through here, through and down here and down, a little bit more flatter in its orientation. And so what happens here is we're kind of in a side perspective, is we have overlap of the bone, okay, quite a bit now. So we're turning in through here, and then it kind of squares off, and then we get into that scraper, that shovel tool, It's like I can imagine it digging or scraping into sand or dirt or something. It might have been used as a tool by other humans when they had no other tools to make. And so now we have this kind of in perspective this way. So what happens is we get this cavity in through here, okay, coming over. I forget the name of it, and I'm not gonna go back and look at it because I don't think it comes up that often. But it does have a name, this cavity of where the ulna comes in through. If you want to look at it, great. It's in the book, but I'm not going to go back and look at it. So what happens? This comes up and over a little bit. I'm going to draw without the ulna there for a moment, or the radius, and then we'll get back to it. Comes over. The shape of it's like that. Then we get this organic shaping, and then this turning in through here, a little soft edge where this bone attaches in through here, comes around, and in the back part gets a little bit of a head to it. That'll change with each bone you draw, little bit changes and differences. But the main point is it's a bulky kind of cube-like triangle with this ridge here, and then there you have a thickness here too as well. So right in through there, there's your thickness in through here. And I can start to show that by a little bit more shading. That'll give you that idea right in through there, and then coming on down. Then what we get is a split where that cavity is, right in through there and up and over. And that cavity, right in through here, okay, right in through here, will give us the place where the ulna will be. So I'll just show you without it, okay? And then we'll put the ulna right on top of it. I think that'll be important. Okay, so we're in this position of the arm here, the total arm from the back kind of side back 3/4 to give you a good view of what's going on. And then you can see the action of that of flexing the muscle would be. Here we are, kind of like actually there we are. Yeah. Of that idea. So if I open that up, you get to see that cavity now through there, allowing connection and movement of that trochleal joint to really, that spool-like joint to really take off. And so you can see that the radius can turn in this idea, and then of course we get the flexing too as well. So let's draw now the ulna as it attaches to the humerus through ligaments and through cartilage. So what we have is this C kind of shaped back. We get a back view of it through here. Make sure we can see that on camera. Okay, and then this connection where it covers up quite a bit of it. It's kind of blocky, the head of it in through here. It's really blocky in its construction. Then it gets a little bit of a extra part into the back, and then the mouth of the C shape comes outward, outside and through here. In this part of the elbow, you get this tri area, 1, 2, 3. You'll see the ulna quite a bit in your elbow, and the medial and the lateral condyle as well too. So we get the ulna bulging out in through, and then it comes down and starts to come down in length too as well here. And that's all we'll mess with for the moment until we get to the lower arm. But I'll throw a little bit of shading. But it fits nicely, doesn't it, into that joint area with that cavity. So that's important to see as well. So we have that coming down. And then now the radius here, that carpenter nail-like top to it, has a very flat kind of top to it. You can see it there a little bit better. And as we turn it down, so it has a ridge to it. Here again. And it kind of, in this view, it kind of cups behind a little bit of the ulna, and it has a little bit of a downward view. So I'm going to pull it over here a little bit, like so, and then we have that cylindrical kind of top cupping to it, the nail head here, and then there's a part where it ends. So it comes down, and then we have an opening, or the tube part of it coming in, and then it starts to come behind this bone a little bit. So it's pretty thin, and it comes behind and gets covered up by the ulna in through there. So we have that kind of now feeling with the overall part of the joint there. So I think it'll behoove us to maybe do a drawing where we get a little bit closer to that joint in a moment. So we've seen that now from the front here, roughly from the front, and then from the back side and through there. Of course, it will fit into the glenoid cavity, like so, it will come across here like this and come over and then down through the cavity, right in through there. So it will get covered up and through there. We'll get the scapula when we draw the muscles more proper. Now, let's get another view here. Let's get a side view of our bone here, our humerus bone, in through here, and take a look and see what that's going to work for us. Now, in this kind of view, as we start to get flexing now with the lower arm, the ulna, right, and the radius, you're going to see that the bulging of the biceps brachii and the brachialis underneath will start to take into effect more fully. We won't see a lot of the humerus. As a matter of fact, the muscles will cover up, and not all the muscles actually attach even to the humerus. The biceps brachii does not attach at all to the arm bone. How interesting is that? Now, when we flex here, we're going to use these back tricep muscles, which will fit along back here in the side. So let's take a look at a view. We'll see of this bone quite often in drawing. So in this particular kind of position, we'll make the part of the ulna and radius that we draw, we'll keep it a little bit, not quite at 90, we'll keep it a little bit lower for more interesting aesthetics. So as we draw the top, the first thing I start out with, again, is that kind of ice cream cone scoop, shape to it. So we have that kind of ball shape. So you can draw the whole thing as a ball, feel it as a ball. Later on, the deltoid will cover all that, and you just want to feel that joint. But it's a pretty easy shape to draw. Then we get the socket that fits into the glenoid cavity in through here, and then we start to we can see it start to come over and flatten out a little bit. Then we start to get into the greater and lesser tuberosity. Now, remember that the greater tuberosity is on the outside, right in through here. It's more lateral. The lesser tuberosity is more medial. In the intertubercular sulcus is in the middle through there. Okay, so we're going to have the deltoids coming in through here, and then we're going to have this little area where the pectoralis muscles will attach right into this area right in through there. They all tuck nicely and tightly into together. So back into that view, what we're seeing here now is this flattens out a little bit. This is the point of all that, this is the greater tubercle now of the humerus up in through here. So it flattens that out in through here, up and around and over, okay, in through. So it's kind of triangular. It's really organic in shape, kind of cubic-like and triangular, coming down and through and over. Okay, so we have that, and then around, and this has a ridge here now. It's kind of a hard ridge. This will flatten a little bit further in through there. Then we come on down, okay, and through, and we see the back head of the ball socket right in through there. This gets a little shaved down and through and over, like so. And so that's the greater tubercle. Mostly, you see that mostly now coming up in through here and over, okay, and around. But we see a little bit of the lesser, this part right in through here, that's the lesser tubercle. We see a little bit of that, which takes it away a lot further from it, just this rounded kind of clear, simple sphere. But that's the original concept of the humerus really is a ball on a stick. It really is that simple, and then we can modify it from there. So this comes up, picks the lesser tubercle up right in through here, and then we're on our way to come down the shaft or the body now of the form. So let's get the gesture of that. Now coming on down, we'll feel that in, coming on down, right in through here, relatively straight. Now we're going to give this a little bit of a greater angle to let this come out a little bit. So we're here, coming on down. Okay, now remember halfway, which is what? About right here. Remember that. We're going to start to feel that deltoid tuberosity. If you say deltoid process, if you say deltoid tubercle, if you say deltoid tuberosity, which is probably the correct way to say it, for sure, you're okay with me. Anybody, my students are U-tube land. So about halfway down. Now you can kind of feel it here, but it's actually more in the middle, right in through here where you find the deltoid tuberosity. So if we come down now and we get the outer edge and we start to feel the inner part of this coming down and through, it gets a little bit thinner in through here. There's a little bit of bulking, but the majority of it is, it's hard to really see in this view, but it's about right in through here. And it's a real kind of a bump, not a contusion, but a real nice ridged, bumped raising to help house those. All the deltoid muscles, here we're in the lateral aspect, will come down to your shoulder. The deltoid is like a shoulder pad, a nice, you know, in medieval times you had these large shoulder pads, or women wear shoulder pads, especially in the 80s for fashion. They probably still do, but it's like a cup on the shoulder, or shoulder pads for American football. So this comes down and through, okay, and here, and then we have this, so now we're about halfway down. So in my view, and the view that we're looking at, it gets a little bit bumpy, and then it kind of comes in, okay, like that, kind of rolls around too. So you're getting this really nice kind of bump, ball in through here, and then a kind of a tube as it comes on down and then through here. So now we can come on down through, finish this out a little further, and get to the olecranon. So there'll be more body of the lower body of the humerus. So again, about halfway, keep that in mind, about halfway, coming on down. In this view now, we're getting a torque or a turn, just like we did over here, right? So we want to see this in conjunction to everything else, make a real issue of that. Everything else down in through here is that we're starting to feel now this point as it's turned over, okay, we were here and now we're turning it here. We want to start to feel this coming like so. So remember, it's a triangle, but it's a triangle cubic form from the side, so we feel this. Now we feel this part coming through and over and outward here. This comes down, and then we start to feel now the olecranon start to really take hold. Here it's like a scoop almost, in through here, then up around. Okay, so we have that going for us. And so what we have here is, remember on the lateral side, so we see the capitulum here, the ball-like form, up roughly in through here. Okay, it's going to come out and then start to give its curved, sort of spherical feeling in through here, and then we get a little bit of a shaving off here. It's not a perfect sphere, but it's nicely spherical. And then we're going to start to get this shadowing pattern here to fill that in, roughly in through. Okay, and then downward and over and around. We get that. We won't see now a lot in this view of the trochleal part of the humerus, because if it's forming in through here, this comes down, shaves down in through here, we can get to see sort of some of this feeling in through there as it comes on down. We don't see a lot of the trochleal part of that because of our perspective. Right in through there, we get a little bit wider out and through here and downward. And now we have the ulna in radius in through here. And so remember, the radius is that carpenter's nail head to it, right? Flattens out here, okay, like so. Then it has a thickness to it of like this, coming down. So we have that, and then the body of the radius turns a little bit in through here, and then we come off and out. And there's a little bump here, the radial tuberosity of the radius right in through here, where we're going to have the long head of the biceps brachii attach a little bit later. It's right in through here, right in through there. That will attach in through here. And the ulna will be behind it. You'll see, again, with the elbow, we're going to draw a view of this in a moment, a little bit larger. The olecranon, the major parts of the olecranon are the medial, the lateral, and then the ulna head in through here to make those three parts. So the lateral epicondyle here, the medial epicondyle, and then the head of the ulna. And again, the ulna kind of eats the humerus. It's got that mouth to it. That's important maybe to think of it like that, if you will. I think that could be important tighten that up a little bit. And so if we finish this little sketch of our drawing, we're going to get this back part of the elbow now of the ulna way back. See how far it's pushed back in through here, and we get all that ulna in through here. Here's the head of it, part of it, in through here and over, and then back down and through. And you get to see a little bit of the curvature of the bone here as it starts to come into. Now, these would probably be a little bit more spread out because of ligaments, but we don't have them on our model. Our skeleton model, that's okay. And we get a little bit of this contouring here. It comes around in our shading to show that in all this in through here, all that is ulna. Radius over here with the edge, and the rest of that is, all this thickness over here is the ulna. Okay, so let's do one more sketch here, and let's talk about now the elbow. Let's get in here and draw this a lot thicker so we can see that. We'll put our final drawing over here. All right, so the olecranon, the elbow, let's get that big. So the first thing that we look for now is that wonderful, again, triangular shape from the, where do you know where the medial or the lateral is if it's turned around? Remember, the radius is on the lateral. The capitulum is lateral in through here, turning over on the outside, turning. So back and through here, the radius is lateral. So we're looking at it now from the back right view. Medial epicondyle, lateral epicondyle of the olecranon, and then we have the ulna in through here. So let's go nice and big so we can see this really large together. Let's pull these two in through here and up and through. It really comes off that head, doesn't it? Of the body, excuse me, of the humerus, nice and thick. So we have that coming through and over. This is turning. See how that's turning in through? We get a little bit of thickness, so we'll show that in a moment. Then this wants to turn down, get wider in through here. And it's a little bit more of an angle, isn't it? It's a little bit more like this coming down, that coming down. So we have this angle to it. Then we have the lateral epicondyle, head over and through here, making its appearance in through here and downward. And then we see a little bit of the capitulum underneath here as a ball, kind of almost like a cylinder in this view, but it wants to turn in here like so. So we see that, and then we'll have this come up, okay, in through here and around, and we'll get a little bit more realism to it in through here. Now, up and through here, this is turning on this bone, and we're going to see the thickness of this torque. We get a little bit more of this head as it would come up, and this is going to torque and start to show a little bit here. Okay, so that's important as we come through. So this starts to turn here, right, and this wants to come and turn around like that. It's important to see coming through there. So we get that triangular shape now through. Now, also, so we get this to there, this turning, this coming over, this really, again, turns and does that. Now, there's a thickness here, right in through here, so we get that thickness or ridging. That's why this tends to, as we keep on coming, we go straighter up and through, this tends to flatten out a little bit. Tubular still, yes, but it tends to flatten out a little bit further in through there. Now, on the other side here, the medial side with the ulna, so we have here the medial condyle, a little bit smaller in its orientation of the triangular part of it. We get this little bump and ridge coming on down and through, okay, and over, heads out through there, then around. This is kind of a ball. I gave it kind of a ball-like feeling to it as it comes around and through here and up. And again, we have that cavity now, so the ulna can come through. So we feel that bone, they feel that cavity in through here, kind of the top apex, if you will, of the triangular part of the olecranon in through here. This could get shaped back that way. Okay. And then this is not quite as round, so we have this coming down and over, in through here. And then we see this cavity as it starts to pull this way on through. Really kind of a softness to it as it gets down to kind of a cave, and then we get a little hard edge here where that ulna is going to reach into downward, in around and through, and then we're going to leave it because we're going to put the ulna in through there. But there's a little thickness here and a little ridging that makes it a little bit more squared off here, right in through there, and then this curves in and gives it a little bit kind of this curve in like that. So this just flattens out a little bit, and then we'll take that on, and then this curves around. So we'll feel this kind of contouring around our form here. So this has a little bit of a slight divot in the elbow joint. You ever thought you'd draw a huge elbow, would you? It's good to raise these up a little bit and a little flatter in through here as we get a little bit more specific to our drawing here. Contour line to show that, flatten out a little bit. Now we can put the ulna on. So we're kind of like the head of it. So we have that C shape of the ulna, and then we're turning it this way in through here, and we have that head again right in through here, coming over, coming through, flattening out and over. Fits nice and neatly in through, kind of boxy for the most part. Then we have this down where the mouth is. Now the mouth starts to open at the end of the olecranon, so it can slide across the trochleal spool right over here. So there's a little bit of extra part of that mouth coming over like so, and it wants to come down and through. There we go. And now we get like any bone, it's irregular, and it's got all kinds of little ridge marks in through here. So we have that. So there's like an inner mark. It's kind of a triangular point of it right here, kind of coming around and over. You see that. And then so this is kind of an inner part of the ulna right in through here. So it gets a little bit thinner. It's kind of like a long sort of calcaneus triangle, if you will, like the lower leg on the heel, right in through there. So this is all like a lower ridge. So what's happening is this is coming up, and this is coming over, but flattening out up, and then flattening out up, and then flattening out through that a little bit. And we're almost there with it. This fits in nicely, snugly with cartilage and ligaments, of course. No bones will actually touch. That would be hurtful. And then there's a little ridging around this part too. So we come in through here and over, and then downward. And then we have the radius. Now this gets here a little bit darker as this cavity subsides in through here and around. There we go. So now we have the radius over here on the lower part of the capitulum. This will be the rounded ball here over back on this part. And through here you can start to see it sliding through here. And then the radius here in my view is overturned and somewhat hidden just a little bit by the ulna. So we get this across here, coming over like so, probably to here. And then we get the ridge of the carpenter's nail head here and down, okay, and through, coming around and softening up and through here and around. Then we get that to curve for us, and that's the end of the ridge. And then it wants to, again, there's a little space here where this gets shaved in, so we get that nail's head point of view, kind of a softer feeling to it. And then it comes down into a curve, and then it gets into the body. Now we see a little bit coming off here and over, and then it disappears back into the ulna a little bit. Maybe like a mushroom stem too as well. And a rounder aspect to it, then it's on its way off. And there we go. Now we have a close-up now of the back of what you see to that elbow. So the point of that is to remember that the elbow proper, the olecranon, or just, that's a fancy way of saying the elbow, Latin way of saying the elbow. What you're going to see are these bones coming out to work for us. You're going to see the medial, lateral, epicondyle, and then the ulna popping out as well. That will give you that aspect to that. All right, so I think we've got now the bones of the upper arm located and talked about, and now we can start to add their muscular forms on to them and give them some real power and understanding to what the upper arm is all about. All right, so why don't we go on now to our muscles. Okay, so now to get to the scapular part of the upper arm, like we talked about, let's take a look now at the bones here of the scapular section. So remember that, and we're looking at, by the way, the left arm in this one. So notice that again, the head of the humerus will attach into the glenoid cavity, right in through this area. So it's a nice ball and socket joint attaching quite nicely. Let me get on this side too as well. You don't have to see me. Nicely into the cavity in through here. So you see that that ball socket area really attaches with cartilage and quite a bit of ligamentation in through this particular area. Now, what we're going to have through with the scapula coming through, the coracoid process in through here will be important for the muscles of the arm. They're going to be important for the coracobrachialis and also the biceps brachii as well. And then also the clavicle, the lateral third, really starting from here all the way over around the acromion process and through the spine, most of the spine back through here where the deltoid muscles will be attaching. Okay, they will end up here on the deltoid process. So I'll come over here now. Right in through here on the deltoid process, in through there, right in through here. So this area, this aspect of the clavicle, the acromion process around through the scapula. We've talked about that before in other lessons. If you need more refreshing, go back on that. You'll see that as well. So that's going to come in quite a bit of play too as well. So the coracoid process, the glenoid cavity, the lateral third of the clavicle, the acromion, right, of the shoulder girdle in the spine of the scapula will come into play. And then if we come on the back now, I'm going to turn the skeleton around for a moment here. Bear with me. You'll see that as well. So now you can see in this lateral aspect the opening of the glenoid cavity. Let me get the bone here. And you can see just how well fitted that. And it's got the pin in the way, but you can see how that fits right into that socket and coming on through with that aspect through there. So that works pretty well. Now, if I set this to the side over here, we can see now the most lateral outside part of the clavicle where the deltoid muscle will sit on top of the acromion process. Remember the clavicle and the acromion process, they kiss, they come together, they form a nice girdle around the entire back, hooking up with the trapezius as well. So the trapezius is on top of, the deltoid muscles carry the bottom part of the spine mostly in the side top here around, and of course remember they all come back to that deltoid process or tuberosity, if you will. So getting now a true back view of that raised up, I'll push this up a little bit so you can see the olecranon too as well. Now you would see the deltoids so right in here to the spine of the scapula, the acromion process, and again on the front lateral third of the clavicle. What becomes important through here is the tricep. The tricep, all three heads, the medial, the long, and the lateral, we'll get to those in a little while, will all bulge and attach down to the olecranon. They'll attach in through here on the humerus, the back body of the humerus, and also here on the side of the scapula. So the scapula does too become important, not only for the shoulders, the movement of the upper extremity, but also for part of the arm as well. And I'll show you later also where the teres major, which we've talked about, but also now the minor, which we really don't see, but it's good to know how the torquing or twisting of the arm works out for us as well. So of course we have the olecranon down in through there. So there we go. That's an addendum now to the other part of the bones, and we'll get into drawing all of the scapula in addition to the humerus and just the top part of the ulna and radius as we get into the muscles. Okay, which will be coming up next. I'll see you there. Bye bye.